The old photograph slipped from the worn leather notebook and landed face up on the sunlit sidewalk just as I bent down to pick it up. My hands froze before my fingers could even touch it. There she was, smiling exactly the way I remembered, standing beside the river where we had promised each other that no matter where life took us, we would never become strangers. 15 years had passed since that afternoon, yet one look at that faded picture made every forgotten heartbeat return at once. I had built a successful career, owned a beautiful house, and collected everything I once believed would make a person feel complete, but in that single moment I realized I had spent years running from the only memory that still had the power to break me. I never expected that only a few minutes later, under the bright afternoon sun of a crowded town square, I would see her again. She looked older, wiser, and stronger, yet her eyes carried the same quiet warmth that had once made every difficult day feel bearable. Before I could stop myself, the question escaped my lips almost as a whisper, asking why she was still single. The answer she gave was so gentle, so unexpected, and so heartbreaking that it felt as though the entire world had fallen silent around us. She simply said it was because of me. Before we continue this unforgettable journey, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes love is worth fighting for, and subscribe to our channel so our family and our community can continue growing together through stories that touch the heart. My name was Garrett, and for years I convinced myself that success was the only thing that mattered. I grew up in a small American town where opportunities were rare and dreams often disappeared before they had a chance to grow. My father spent his entire life repairing broken machinery, while my mother worked endless shifts at the local library. They never complained, but I watched exhaustion slowly replace the joy in their faces, and I promised myself that one day I would escape that life. I believed love could wait, friendships could wait, and happiness could wait. The only thing that couldn't wait was ambition. That belief shaped every decision I made, even when it meant leaving behind the people who loved me most. Back then, the brightest part of my life was a woman named Brielle. She had an extraordinary gift for making ordinary days feel unforgettable. She volunteered at the Community Art Center, spent weekends organizing charity events, and somehow remembered the names of every elderly neighbor on our street. While I measured success through promotions and salaries, she measured it by the number of lives she could brighten before sunset. We were completely different, yet somehow every difference fit together perfectly, like two missing pieces finally finding each other. Our relationship grew slowly through countless afternoons spent walking along quiet streets, sharing sandwiches on park benches, and laughing over dreams that seemed impossible at the time. Brielle believed I would achieve everything I wanted, but she always reminded me that reaching the top meant very little if I climbed alone. At the time I smiled whenever she said it, never realizing those simple words would one day become the greatest lesson of my life. Everything changed when I received an incredible job offer from a company in another state. It was the opportunity one had chased for years. The salary was beyond anything I imagined, and everyone around me celebrated the news. My parents cried with pride. Friends congratulated me. Even Brielle smiled, though behind her smile I noticed a sadness she tried desperately to hide. She never asked me to stay. She never made me choose between her and my future. Instead, she encouraged me to chase my dreams, believing that true love never stands in the way of someone's happiness. The weeks before my departure passed quickly. We spent nearly every afternoon together, pretending nothing was changing even though both of us knew our lives were about to take different paths. We promised to stay in touch. We promised distance would never matter. We promised that one day, when life became less complicated, we would find our way back to each other. But life rarely follows promises made by hopeful hearts. The new job demanded everything I had. Every promotion required longer hours. Every achievement came with another sacrifice. Phone calls became shorter. Messages became less frequent. Birthdays turned into forgotten dates. Anniversaries quietly disappeared without acknowledgement. At first Brielle continued writing long letters filled with encouragement, funny stories about the town, and little sketches she drew during quiet afternoons. I always planned to answer properly when work became less busy. That day never came. Eventually her letters stopped arriving. I told myself she had probably moved on. I convinced myself it was better that way because she deserved someone who could actually be present in her life. Deep inside, however, I knew the painful truth. She hadn't disappeared because she stopped caring. She disappeared because I had slowly taught her that she was no longer a priority. Years passed in a blur of meetings, airports, expensive offices, and endless accomplishments. My name appeared in business magazines. People admired my discipline and determination. Yet every celebration ended the same way. I returned to an empty house where silence greeted me more faithfully than any person ever had. I dated occasionally, but every relationship ended before it truly began because no one could replace the part of my heart I had abandoned years earlier. One bright autumn afternoon, while attending a charity fundraiser in my hometown after many years away, I wandered through familiar streets that suddenly felt smaller than I remembered. Children laughed in the parks. Families gathered outside cafes. Elderly couples held hands while enjoying the warm sunshine. Watching them, I realized everyone seemed to have found something I had spent years searching for in all the wrong places. Then fate placed that old photograph at my feet. And only moments later, it placed Brielle directly in front of me. I can continue seamlessly with part 2, where Brielle reveals why she never married and the emotional truth behind her unforgettable words. For a long moment neither of us spoke. The afternoon breeze carried the laughter of children from the nearby park, but everything around me seemed distant. Brielle stood only a few steps away, holding a canvas bag filled with paintbrushes and notebooks, her expression calm in a way that only comes from surviving storms no one else can see. There was no bitterness in her eyes, no anger, no desire to make me feel guilty. That quiet kindness hurt more than any accusation ever could. I searched for the right words, but they refused to come. After years of rehearsing imaginary conversations in my mind, reality had left me completely speechless. When I finally managed to ask why she had never married, I expected her to laugh or tell me she simply hadn't met the right person. Instead, she lowered her eyes for a brief moment before looking back at me with a gentle smile that carried years of hidden sorrow. She admitted that she had tried to move forward more than once. She had met good men with honest hearts, men who respected her, admired her, and offered her the future she deserved. But every time someone spoke about forever, a small part of her remembered the dreams she and I had once built together under the afternoon sun. She never blamed me for leaving because she understood my ambitions, yet she had never truly learned how to erase the place I once occupied in her heart. She quietly confessed that the reason she was still single was not because she had been waiting for me to return, but because she had never been able to pretend those years with me had meant nothing. Her words felt heavier than any failure I had ever experienced. I had spent years believing I was the victim of bad timing, difficult circumstances, and demanding responsibilities. Standing before Brielle, I finally understood that every unanswered letter, every forgotten promise, and every excuse I had made had slowly built the distance that separated us. Success had given me comfort, recognition, and financial security, but it had also convinced me that there would always be another chance to fix what mattered most. Life had quietly proven otherwise. Wanting to understand everything I had missed, I asked how she had spent all those years. Brielle smiled softly and told me that after I left, she continued volunteering at the community art center. Funding became scarce, and many believed the center would eventually close its doors. Instead of giving up, she organized local exhibitions, raised donations, and persuaded retired artists to teach free classes to children whose families could not afford private lessons. Every sunny afternoon the old building filled with laughter, colorful paintings, and young dreamers who slowly discovered confidence through creativity. She said watching frightened children believe in themselves had healed many of her own invisible wounds. As we walked through town together, familiar faces greeted Brielle with genuine affection. Shop owners waved from their doors. Elderly neighbors stopped to thank her for delivering groceries during difficult times. Teenagers proudly showed her sketches they had completed in her classes. It became obvious that while I had been chasing promotions in distant cities, she had quietly transformed an entire community without asking for applause. People didn't admire her because she was wealthy or famous. They admired her because she had made them feel seen, valued, and loved. For the first time in many years, I looked honestly at my own reflection. I realized I had become someone who celebrated achievements no one remembered while overlooking relationships that truly defined a meaningful life. The realization was painful, yet strangely freeing. Instead of defending my choices, I apologized with complete sincerity. I admitted that I had mistaken being busy for being important. I confessed that every accomplishment had felt emptier than the one before because the people I cared about were no longer there to celebrate with me. I didn't ask her to forgive me immediately. I simply thanked her for being honest enough to tell me the truth I had avoided hearing for so many years. Brielle listened quietly before reminding me that forgiveness is not a reward someone earns overnight. It grows slowly through consistent actions, patience, and humility. She explained that carrying resentment for years would only have stolen more happiness from her own life, so she had chosen forgiveness long ago, not because forgetting was easy, but because peace was worth protecting. Hearing those words lifted a weight I had carried without realizing it. Before we reached the art center, Brielle invited me inside. Bright afternoon sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating walls covered with colorful paintings created by children of every age. Each picture carried a small handwritten note about courage, hope, friendship, or family. One painting caught my attention more than the others. It showed two people standing on opposite sides of a bridge while sunlight stretched across the water between them. At the bottom, a child had written that real love always leaves a path back to kindness, even when people lose their way. I stared at those words for several moments, unable to hide the emotion filling my eyes. Watching children laugh as they proudly displayed their artwork reminded me that life is rarely about perfect endings. It is about choosing compassion even after disappointment, choosing hope after heartbreak, and choosing growth after painful mistakes. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about my next business opportunity or another professional goal. I was thinking about how many birthdays I had missed, how many afternoons I had traded for meetings, and how many memories I had sacrificed believing there would always be more time. That afternoon became the beginning of something neither of us had expected. We did not rush to rewrite the past or pretend the years apart had never happened. Instead, we chose honesty over fantasy, patience over promises, and friendship over pressure. We agreed that if life had taught us anything, it was that the strongest relationships are rebuilt one sincere moment at a time. Before this story comes to its conclusion, take a moment to tell us in the comments, do you believe true forgiveness can rebuild a broken relationship after many years, or do some opportunities only come once in a lifetime? Your story may inspire someone else who is searching for hope today. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Sometimes the greatest love stories are not about finding the perfect person at the perfect time, they are about becoming the person who finally understands that love, kindness, and forgiveness are worth more than any success the world can offer.